There are 10,000 players trapped inside Aincrad. 10,000 people, living, breathing, dying, and over months of blood, exhaustion, and grief. Every one of them has learned the same thing. The rules of this world are fixed. You study the monsters. You memorize their patterns. You predict their behavior before they move. That's how you survive Aincrad. Because the mobs are brutal, but they're predictable. Every attack follows a script. Every encounter follows logic. Every boss is ultimately just another system designed to kill you slowly. And that's what made Aincrad terrifying. It made sense. Past tense. The portal on floor 25 opened at 14:37 Aincrad Standard Time. Not with a sound. Not with a warning. Not with any system notification players had learned to treat like a second heartbeat. It just opened. A tear in reality itself. Violet light bleeding through the air above the boss chamber floor. And for one terrible second, nobody moved. Because players had seen strange things before. Raid traps, hidden mechanics, phase transitions no beta tester had predicted. But this was different. The first thing that came through the portal wasn't a monster. It was sound, organic, alive, raw. Not the metallic roar of an Aincrad guardian. Not the programmed scream of a raid boss. This sound didn't belong to the system. It sounded like something that didn't know it was supposed to follow the rules. Then the creature emerged. And in that impossible moment, every player in the chamber understood something no amount of sword skill mastery or stat optimization could prepare them for. This wasn't Aincrad's game anymore. What if Digimon invaded Sword Art Online?
Aincrad just got infected. Yo, okay, hold on. Because this is actually insane. Imagine you finally figured out the rules of the patterns, the boss mechanics, the survival strategies. Everything is finally predictable. And then, the sky tears open. No warning, no system alert, just a champion-level Kuwagamon crashing straight into Aincrad. And that's when everybody realizes something terrifying. These things aren't part of the game. We're not talking about scripted raids anymore. We're talking about real monsters. Organic, violent, and completely outside the system. Your sword skills might not even matter now, because the second Digimon enter this world, the rules don't bend, they break. Stick around, because this isn't just a crossover, it's a total system crash.
Floor 25. The breach floor. That's what history would call it later. But in the moment, there were no names, no theories, no understanding. Only the thing standing in front of them. Kuwagamon, champion level, 6 meters of armored rage, crimson plating, mandibles sharp enough to shear stone, wings screaming through the chamber like tearing steel. And it was angry. Kirito moved first. Because Kirito always moved first. Before most players had even processed what they were looking at, he was already moving across the battlefield, Black Blade igniting into a sword skill combo refined through months of frontline combat. The strike connected, and Kirito froze, because something had just happened that Aincrad was never supposed to allow. He felt it, not simulated impact, not digital pressure, resistance, teeth, pain, real pain bleeding through Cardinal's safety systems. Incomplete, filtered, but undeniably real. Kirito staggered backward. His HP bar had dropped. That part was normal, but his sword hand was shaking. Not from fear, from shock, because Aincrad wasn't supposed to hurt like this. Behind him, another player screamed. Not the exaggerated panic of a gamer caught off guard. A real scream. The involuntary sound of someone experiencing genuine pain inside a world that promised pain wasn't possible. That changed everything. The pain absorbers inside Aincrad were fundamental to the game's design. When players took damage, they felt pressure, a dull imitation of impact, a ghost sensation. That was the promise. But Digimon weren't created by Cardinal. They weren't part of Aincrad's programming. They weren't bound to its systems. They simply existed. Digital beings with genuine will, genuine force, genuine presence. and when genuine force collided with Aincrad's incomplete protections. Some of it got through. Not fully. Not enough to destroy the system. But enough. Enough for every player in that chamber to realize something horrifying. Fighting a Digimon wasn't like fighting a mob. It was like fighting something real. The retreat collapsed almost immediately. Not because the frontline players were cowards. Because they adapted. 30 experienced players scattered across the chamber as the entire battle structure disintegrated. Years of raid tactics suddenly meant nothing. HP bars meant nothing if your hands were shaking too hard to hold your weapon. Damage calculations meant nothing if the enemy ignored predictable behavior patterns. Koigamon didn't fight like an Aincrad boss. It fought like a furious living creature, and it was getting angrier. Asuna called the withdrawal. Fast, precise, absolute, retreat, full withdrawal. Now, nobody argued. Because Asuna understood something before most of them did. The most important skill in Aincrad wasn't swordsmanship. It was knowing when survival mattered more than victory. The emergency meeting took place on floor 1. The Black Iron Palace. One of the only places in Aincrad that still felt remotely neutral. Players arrived in silence. Small groups. Pairs. Individuals carrying weapons that suddenly felt much less reliable than they had that morning. Some of them were holding their arms. Not dramatically. Carefully. Like the pain was still there. Even in a world where pain wasn't supposed to exist. Kirito sat near the edge of the room with a book in his hands. He'd taken it from the floor 25 chamber during the retreat. Instinct. The same instinct that had kept him alive for 10 months. Gather information first. Ask questions later. The book felt wrong. Heavy. Dense. Not physically. Conceptually. Like the thing itself resisted being understood. Kirito opened it. The language inside wasn't corrupted. It was unfamiliar in a way Aincrad shouldn't have allowed. Symbols unlike anything in the system database. Precise. Geometric. Completely unreadable. Kibu folded his arms. So let me get this straight. You nearly died grabbing a book nobody can read. No one laughed. The room was too exhausted. Too unsettled. Everyone understood the same thing now. Floor 25 wasn't an isolated incident. It was the beginning of something. Then the book moved. Pages turning rapidly on their own. Lights spilling out from between them. Not Aincrad's cold digital glow. Something warmer. Older. Aware. The figure that emerged floated slowly into the room. A robe being wrapped in deep violet fabric patterned like a moving night sky. Ancient eyes scanned the gathering. The weapons. The fear. The exhaustion. Then his gaze stopped. Koharu. And the small white Digimon in her arms. Calumet. The figure's expression shifted instantly. Wonder. Concern. Recognition. The herald of change. His voice filled the chamber effortlessly. Not loud. Simply present. You are here as well. The room stayed silent. The figure looked across the assembled players once more before finally speaking. I am Wisemon. A pause. And for the first time since the portal opened, the atmosphere in the Black Iron Palace became even heavier. Because every player in that room instinctively understood one thing. This was the moment they were finally about to learn how bad the situation really was. Wisemon explained what Digimon were. Not programs. Not monsters. Beings. Creatures of data, consciousness, and soul originating from a parallel world separated from humanity by a boundary most people never knew existed. A boundary that was now damaged. He didn't soften the truth. The barrier between your world and the digital world has been compromised. I do not yet know the extent of the damage. I do not know how many have crossed over. He looked around the room. I am hoping the breach is contained. Then the doors exploded open. A Knight of the Blood Oath member stumbled into the chamber, breathless and pale. Asuna stepped forward immediately. We're in the middle of. They're everywhere. The words came out before he could control them. Every cleared floor. Portals are opening everywhere. Dozens. Hundreds. Those things are spreading through Aincrad. Silence. Not panic. Something colder. The silence of people realizing the scale of the disaster had just exceeded their ability to process it. Wisemon closed his eyes. And when he opened them again, the last trace of hope was gone. The damage is extensive. The Digimon Analyzer appeared 3 hours later. No announcement, no explanation, just a new notification appearing simultaneously in every player HUD across Aincrad. A soft chime unlike anything Cardinal had ever produced. Heathcliff looked directly at Wisemon. "What did you just do?" Wisemon gestured toward Koharu. She opened her menu. A new option had appeared above the settings icon. Digimon Analyzer. She tapped it. Wisemon's profile materialized instantly. Name, attribute, evolution level, known abilities, behavioral tendencies. A complete digital profile assembled in seconds. With this tool, Wisemon explained, players can record information on any Digimon they encounter. Once registered, that data becomes globally accessible to everyone inside Aincrad. Then his expression darkened. But understand this carefully. The analyzer records tendencies, not certainty. A Digimon marked dangerous is not automatically evil. A Digimon marked aggressive may still choose kindness. He looked directly at the frontline players. Do not use fear as justification to kill everything you do not understand. Some players listened. Others were already planning exactly the opposite. That night, Aincrad felt different. Not louder, heavier. Like the world itself understood something terrible had entered it. On floor 3, something enormous moved silently through the forests. On floor 5, golden eyes watched from abandoned rooftops. On floor 14, a lonely voice echoed through corridors no player had entered in weeks. And across Aincrad, inside dungeons, inside fields, inside the spaces between familiar places, portals continued opening. Dozens of them, still spreading, still growing. And somewhere beyond those portals, something was watching Aincrad watch back. Floor clearing stopped, not because anyone officially ordered it, because the math changed. The moment reports confirmed Digimon portals were appearing across every cleared floor simultaneously, the frontline realized something terrifying. They no longer understood the world they were standing in. You don't push toward floor 26 when floors 3 through 25 have become unknown territory. Agile said it plainly during the emergency strategy meeting. We don't know what we're dealing with yet. We don't know how many crossed over. We don't know which ones are dangerous. He rested his axe against the table. So we stopped climbing. We survey first. Nobody argued. Even the players who normally argued about everything. Because for the first time since Aincrad began, the frontline wasn't facing a boss. They were facing uncertainty. The survey teams moved carefully. Small groups, 2 or 3 players at most. Armed, but under strict orders from Kirito, Asuna, and Heathcliff. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. The Digimon Analyzer became their greatest advantage. And what they discovered during those first few days changed the entire shape of the conflict. Because the Digimon crossing into Aincrad weren't all invaders. Some of them were just lost. Floor 3. The forest's players had crossed hundreds of times without fear. The survey team heard the sound before they found the source. Slow, rhythmic, melancholy, not threatening, sad. The Digimon standing in the clearing looked almost like a living scarecrow. No human, tall, ancient, silent. He stood at the edge of the trees, staring upward toward the artificial sky ceiling above floor 3. And despite being completely unfamiliar, the emotion on his face was instantly recognizable. Homesickness. One of the surveyors quietly activated the analyzer. The profile loaded. Behavior classification. Non-hostile. Emotionally distressed. A player slowly lowered their weapon. He's not going to attack us. Nobody moved. Then a mid-level player named Recon stepped forward. One careful step. Then another. He extended his hand. Not with a weapon. Open. No human stared at it for several long seconds. Then slowly reached out himself. That moment would later become known as the first recruitment. The moment the players of Aincrad stopped treating every Digimon as an enemy and started understanding them as people. Others followed. Floor 5. Black Gataman Uver. A cat-like Digimon with golden eyes sharp enough to make even experienced players uncomfortable. The survey team didn't find her. She found them, after silently observing them for nearly 40 minutes from the rooftops above the district. When the analyzer notification appeared on a player's HUD, Her ears twitched slightly. "You're cataloging us." Not angry, not defensive, just observant. Like she already understood exactly what the humans were trying to do, and had decided, for reasons entirely her own, that she preferred cooperation over conflict. Floor 14. Centaurmon. The survey team almost attacked him on sight. Massive frame, weaponized body, dungeon entrance directly behind him. Every instinct screamed danger, until they realized he wasn't guarding the dungeon from them. He was guarding them from the dungeon. Something inside had been trying to escape for days. And Centaurmon had remained there alone since arriving in Aincrad, holding the line because someone needed to. No one had asked him to stay. He stayed anyway. That mattered. Sirenmon was discovered on the same floor. The source of the lonely singing players had been hearing through abandoned corridors. The analyzer classified her as emotionally unstable but non-hostile. And when the survey team finally approached her, they realized something important almost immediately. She wasn't dangerous. She was grieving. The food Digimon changed the situation in a different way, because they weren't fighters. They weren't scouts. They weren't even capable of defending themselves properly. They were frightened creatures trapped inside a death game they couldn't understand. Myuran arrived alongside several food attribute Digimon during one of the smaller portal surges. Ulrich found them first. A logistics player, not a frontline fighter. Not famous, not important in the way Aincrad usually defined importance. But when he saw the Digimon huddled together in an alleyway on floor 3, he immediately stepped between them and the street. Protective instinct. Nothing more complicated than that. The escort mission back to the town of beginnings took 6 hours. Normally, it would have taken less than 1. But escorting terrified Digimon turned out to be very different from escorting NPCs. The smaller Digimon panicked at loud noises, stopped moving when players raised their voices, froze whenever unfamiliar footsteps approached too quickly. Ulrich adapted. He slowed down when they slowed down, stopped when they stopped, positioned himself between them and every player staring too long with calculation in their eyes. And by the time he finally arrived at the town of beginnings, exhaustion had settled into his entire body. Not physical exhaustion, the emotional kind. The kind that came from realizing protecting frightened things required a different kind of strength. The Dokuguman encounter on floor 9 changed everything again. Because this time, the Digimon really was dangerous. The analyzer marked her immediately. Aggressive, territorial, high threat classification. The survey team prepared for combat. But the battle didn't start because Dokuguman attacked first. It started because the players got too close to what she was protecting. A DG egg, resting deep within the dungeon chamber. Small, pale, faintly pulsing with life. The realization hit too late. This wasn't a monster defending territory. It was a mother defending her child. The fight that followed was brutal. Dokuguman fought with the desperation of something that believed losing meant losing everything. And even after the survey team won, nobody felt victorious. They returned to the Black Iron Palace carrying the DG egg in silence. Wisemon examined it carefully. When Digimon die, he explained quietly, their data reforms into DG eggs. Eventually, they are reborn. He looked at the shell carefully. Most lose their memories. A pause. Most. The room became still. There are rare cases where fragments remain. Another pause. And extremely rare cases where everything returns. Kirito stared at the DG egg for a long moment. Not as loot, not as a system object, as a life, a consequence, a responsibility. It was Sasha who changed the direction of the entire conversation. Quietly, not with strategy, not with tactics, with compassion. The frightened ones, she asked Wisemon softly. The Digimon who haven't hurt anyone. The ones who are scared. She glanced toward the food Digimon resting nearby. What do they need? Wisemon answered almost immediately. The same things anyone frightened needs. Safety, understanding, time. Some players looked uncomfortable hearing that, because it was easier to treat the Digimon situation like a military problem. Enemies, targets, threat classifications. Much harder to accept that some of the beings entering Aincrad weren't invaders at all. Just displaced, just afraid, just trying to survive. The town of beginnings slowly changed. Noheman began standing watch near the southern gate every night. No one assigned him there. He simply understood people needed protecting. Black Gadam and Uver patrolled rooftops after dark, watching alleys, monitoring movements. She never explained why. She never needed to. And somewhere far above the mall, on floor 25, the original portal still remained. Smaller now, dimmer, but still open. And beyond it, something was watching, patient, calculating, waiting for the exact moment Aincrad started feeling safe again. Calumet felt it before anyone else. The small Digimon pressed herself tightly against Koharu's chest, ears flat, body trembling, eyes wide with fear. And even though she couldn't explain what she sensed, everyone around her understood the meaning immediately. Something worse was coming. Her name was Sonya. At least, that was the name she used inside Aincrad. The real world had another name for her. Another life. Another version of herself waiting beyond was beginning to realize how lonely safety actually felt. Wisemon struggled too, though she tried desperately not to show it. She carried herself with elegance, composure, refinement, the image of nobility. But small cracks kept appearing. Moments where curiosity overcame dignity. Moments where excitement slipped through her carefully maintained mask. Moments where she forgot to pretend. Sonya noticed all of them, and slowly began noticing something else too. Every time discussions about virus attribute Digimon appeared, Wisemon became uncomfortable, tense, defensive. One evening, while resting near a safe zone bonfire, another player casually remarked, "Still weird trusting a virus Digimon." The reaction was immediate. Wisemon went silent, completely silent. The kind of silence that felt practiced. That night Sonya confronted her about it. "You hate being called virus attribute." Wisemon stiffened. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then finally, quietly, "I wanted to become a heroine once." That answer surprised Sonya. Wisemon looked toward the fire. "When I was younger, I admired the virus busters, protectors, heroes." Her voice lowered slightly. "But I was born a virus Digimon." A bitter smile crossed her face. "Turns out people decide what you are long before they decide who you are." Sonya froze, because she understood that feeling perfectly. Wisemon eventually told her the rest. About the knight who saved her years ago. A royal knight, Gallantmon, a warrior respected across the digital world despite also carrying the virus attribute. "He told me being born a virus didn't decide my worth." Wisemon stared into the flames. But believing that is harder than hearing it. Sonya looked away, because that line hit too close. The Silver Devil existed for the exact same reason. People saw coldness and strength before they saw fear. Saw reputation before they saw loneliness. And eventually, Sonya had started believing the role herself. The frontline situation continued worsening. Reports of portals inside safe zones increased daily. Small Digimon scouts appeared near supply routes, town entrances, observation points. Something intelligent was gathering information. Watching Aincrad learn. Watching Aincrad adapt. Kirito noticed the pattern first, though Wisemon confirmed it. "The breaches are evolving," Wisemon explained during one of the strategy meetings. "Whoever caused this is studying your world." That unsettled everyone, because studying implied planning, and planning implied intent. Calumet felt the danger. Guy.
Okay, nah, I gotta jump in here for a second. Because the bond between Sonya and Wisemon, that hit way harder than I expected. Like seriously, watching a virus-type Digimon struggle with her identity inside a world that already treats people like disposable data? Yeah, that's rough. And honestly, that's where this crossover starts getting dangerous emotionally. Because now it's not just monsters invading anymore. Now people are starting to change because of them. But don't get too comfortable yet, because the atmosphere just shifted hard. Wisemon just confirmed something terrifying. This wasn't random. This wasn't an accident. Something intelligent is hunting Calimon. And the second that realization hits, everything changes. Because if someone, or something, can manipulate Digimon inside Aincrad, then this entire world is already compromised. This right here? This is the turning point. The moment where the players stop asking, "Can we survive this?" and start asking, "Can Aincrad survive at all?" So now the question is simple. Can the frontline hold the breach, or is Aincrad about to be completely deleted? Because we are heading straight into the final breach.
The portals expanded in silence. That was the part people remembered most afterward. Not the screams, not the explosions, not the battles erupting across Aincrad simultaneously. The silence before all of it. That single impossible moment where every player looked upward and realized the situation had just become a war. System alerts flooded Aincrad faster than Cardinal could process them. Floor notifications stacked over each other in crimson warning text. Floor 3, breach detected. Floor 5, multiple hostiles confirmed. Floor 7, safe zone violation. Floor 14, emergency evacuation requested. And beneath all of it, one horrifying realization. The Digimon entering Aincrad now weren't random. They were organized. The survey teams had prepared for isolated encounters. Scattered Digimon, small incidents, confused arrivals. What emerged from the expanded portals was something completely different. Formation movement, coordinated attacks, units covering each other's blind spots, groups advancing with purpose. This wasn't chaos anymore. Someone was directing them. Someone had planned this. The attacks targeted populated zones first, not boss chambers, not dungeons, towns, safe areas, places where players lowered their guard, places where Aincrad still pretended to feel human. Floor 3 fell into panic almost immediately. The forest routes near the southern paths erupted with combat before evacuation warnings fully spread across the settlement. No human moved first, not because he was strongest, because he had already been watching those woods every night since arriving in Aincrad. He saw the movement before anyone else did, saw the shadows approaching through the trees, saw the attack coming, and when the first hostile Digimon burst from the forest, no human stepped forward alone. He held the southern route for 11 full minutes. 11 minutes against impossible odds. By the time Agile's squad reached him, the ground around Nohemin looked like a battlefield. Fragments of shattered stone, scorch marks, broken trees, and Nohemin himself, barely standing. His HP hovered dangerously low. The incomplete pain absorption system translated directly across his face. Agony, real agony. Yet he still raised his weapon. Behind me. The first words he had spoken since arriving in Aincrad. Agile didn't answer. He simply stepped beside him, shield to shield. Because some moments didn't need speeches, only presence. Floor 5 became a nightmare of urban combat. Black Gadaman Uver moved through rooftops like a phantom. Fast, silent, precise. She intercepted scout units before they reached civilian districts. Warned players about ambushes seconds before they happened. Dragged wounded survivors out of collapsing alleyways without stopping long enough for thanks. At one point, a lower-level player froze completely during an attack. Panic, shock, terror locking every muscle in place. A hostile Fangmon lunged directly toward him, and Black Gadaman intercepted it midair with enough force to shatter both of them through a nearby wall. Afterward, while the players struggled to breathe through the adrenaline, he asked the obvious question. "Why did you save me?" Black Gadaman stared at him for several seconds, then quietly answered, "Because someone should," and vanished back into the fighting. Floor 7 became the shortest battle of the entire invasion, mostly because Sonya and Wisemon stopped it before it could spread. The first portal erupted directly inside one of the market sectors. Goblin units flooded into the streets almost instantly. Fast, chaotic, Violent. Players panicked. Some fled. Some froze. Some tried fighting individually and were overwhelmed immediately. And right in the center of the chaos, Sonya and Wisemon moved together. Perfect synchronization. Not because they had practiced, because they understood each other. Wisemon intercepted attacks before Sonya saw them coming. Sonya covered openings before Wisemon could be surrounded. Every movement flowed naturally into the next, like two people finally lowering the walls around themselves at exactly the same moment. At one point, a Goblin strike nearly reached Sonya's blind side. Wisemon moved instantly, throwing herself between Sonya and the attack without hesitation. Sonya froze, not because of danger, because for the first time in a very long time, someone had chosen her over their own safety. "You don't have to protect me," Sonya whispered. Wisemon didn't even look back. "Neither do you." That answer hit harder than the battle itself. Meanwhile, on floor 25, Kirito found the source. The original breach had expanded into something enormous. The portal dominated half the boss chamber now. Violet energy twisting endlessly inside it like a wound carved directly into reality. And standing before it was the thing orchestrating everything. Kirito activated the Digimon analyzer automatically. The profile attempted loading, then lagged. Not from system failure, from scale. The Digimon standing before the breach possessed data density so immense the analyzer struggled processing it correctly. Kirito read the partial results, then immediately sent the profile globally across Aincrad. Every player, every guild, every Digimon ally. No commentary, no explanation, just one silent warning. This was the real enemy. Back inside the Black Iron Palace, Wisemon received the profile. And for the first time since arriving in Aincrad, his composure cracked, only slightly, but enough. Koharu noticed immediately. Wisemon stared silently at the analyzer data, then closed his eyes. They found her. Calumet trembled violently in Koharu's arms. The small Digimon looked terrified now, not confused, not uncertain, terrified. Wisemon turned sharply toward the frontline leaders. "Keep Calumet away from floor 25 at all costs." His voice carried a severity nobody had heard before. "Every available fighter holds the lower floors. Nobody reaches the breach." Koharu stepped forward. "What about you?" Wisemon hesitated, only briefly, then answered honestly. "I'm going to close the boundary." A pause. From the inside. The battle of floor 25 lasted 47 minutes. Later, survivors described it differently. Some called it beautiful, others called it horrifying, most simply called it real. Because fighting Digimon felt fundamentally different from fighting Aincrad monsters. Not because they were stronger, because they chose. They adapted, protected each other, retreated intelligently, fought desperately when cornered. They felt alive, and for the first time since Aincrad began, players truly understood the difference between defeating enemies and hurting living things. The pain absorbers barely mattered anymore. Every impact hurt. Every wound carried weight. Every scream sounded real. And yet, players still fought. Not for experience points. Not for loot. Not for progression. For each other. For the Digimon beside them. For the fragile communities forming inside the chaos. Kirito reached the center of the chamber first. Black coat torn. HP dangerously low. Breathing uneven, but still standing. Because Kirito always stood back up. Across from him, the enemy Digimon finally moved. The pressure alone nearly froze the room. An ultimate level presence. Ancient, controlled, terrifyingly intelligent. And behind Kirito, portals continued expanding. More hostiles preparing to enter Aincrad. More war waiting beyond the boundary. Then Wisemon arrived. The air shifted instantly. Not with power, with understanding. The two Digimon looked at each other like beings carrying history far older than any player in Aincrad could comprehend. "You should not have crossed worlds," Wisemon said quietly. The enemy laughed softly. "Worlds were always meant to merge." Behind them, Calumet suddenly cried out. A pulse of light erupted from her body. The chamber shook violently, and every Digimon present froze simultaneously. Because for one brief moment, Something impossibly ancient looked through Calumen's eyes. Something vast. Something connected to the evolution of both worlds themselves. The Herald of Change. Wisemon understood immediately, and so did the enemy. This had never been about Aincrad. Aincrad was simply the battlefield. Calumen was the true objective. Wisemon turned toward Kirito one final time, and smiled. A tired smile. The kind worn by people who already know the cost of what comes next. "Protect this world," he said softly. Then he stepped into the breach. The portal collapsed 7 minutes later. Not violently, quietly, like reality stitching itself closed. The violet light faded. The pressure disappeared. The war ended almost instantly. Across Aincrad, hostile Digimon began retreating. Remaining portals destabilized. The coordinated assault fell apart without leadership. And slowly, for the first time in hours, silence returned. Afterward, the Black Iron Palace became painfully quiet. Players sat together without speaking, treating injuries, counting survivors, trying to emotionally process a battle unlike anything Aincrad had prepared them for. Koharu sat near one of the windows with Calumen asleep against her chest. For the first time since the invasion began, Calumen looked peaceful. Sonya eventually approached and sat beside her, not across from her. Beside her, no walls, no distance, just presence. Koharu smiled slightly and silently made room. 16 days later, the DG egg hatched. No dramatic music, no major event, just a quiet afternoon inside Sasha's care facility. The shell cracked gently, and a tiny Digimon emerged into the light. Small, confused, alive. The children gathered around carefully. Sasha knelt beside the newborn creature and slowly extended her hand. The Digimon stared at her for several long seconds, then stepped forward, and in a world built around death, that tiny act of trust felt miraculous. Floor clearing resumed 6 days later, but Aincrad no longer felt like the same world. The assault teams climbing toward floor 26 now contained more than players. Noheman guarded the rear lines beside Agile. Centaurmon defended dungeon entrances. Black Gataman Uver scouted ahead of frontline groups through the shadows. And on floor 7, Sonya walked beside Elizamon, not hiding anymore, not pretending quite as hard. Still guarded, still complicated, but no longer alone. Wiseman's final message to Koharu was left beside the empty DG eggshell, written first in Digimoji, then translated beneath it. 3 simple lines. The Herald of Change was never sent here because Aincrad was broken. A pause. It was sent here because Aincrad was ready. Koharu read the note twice, then quietly folded it into her pocket. Outside the window, players prepared for another climb toward the upper floors. Toward danger, toward uncertainty, toward survival. But something inside Aincrad had changed now. Not the game, the people. And somewhere high above the floating castle, beyond steel walls and artificial skies, the boundary between worlds remained just slightly open, waiting, watching for what came next.
Man, that ending? Nah, I'm not gonna lie. I've got chills. Watching Wisemon step into that breach to save 2 worlds at once? Yeah, that hit different. And then, seeing a Digi-Egg hatch inside a world that was literally designed to become a graveyard for 10,000 people? That's insane. Because now, Aincrad isn't just a death game anymore. It changed. Completely. And honestly, I think it's becoming something better. Something alive. But alright, we need to settle this debate in the comments. If you were trapped in this version of Aincrad, which Digimon would you choose as your partner to help you clear the floors? And no cheating, because some of y'all are absolutely picking Omnimon immediately. Drop your picks below. I'm curious who survives this version of the game and who gets wiped on floor 1. And trust me, the next what if we're diving into makes this breach look small. I'm out. See you on the next floor.